I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational.
You can do it!
But that just wouldn't be our style.
Welcome to Project Reclamation, where you rebuild, re-energize, and reclaim your life. So, welcome back to our multi-parter about Sun Tzu's The Art of War. You have Tim Frick with you, and we have returning with us, Shannon.
Heidi-ho.
We're a little bit short-staffed today, I gotta say, because, Steve is still on sabbatical, although he will be back soon. And JB is busy with a new little one. Congratulations, JB. One more addition to the Beckstead family. So send JB your emails. Oh, see, Paige has something to say about it, too. She wants to congratulate
saying congrats.
JB. Congrats, JB. Although
Mommy and baby are good.
Yes. So far, it seems like everyone's good. So, we wish you guys a happy, healthy new little one. So, yeah. Anyways, we're getting off to a little bit of a late start. I was stuck in traffic. I really hate traffic so much. But I had to, channel my inner Project Reclamation and not get angry about stuff. Because, I know that Sun Tzu would be like, oh, Tim, you are irritated and you make bad decisions. And I was like, I don't know why I had to do, a really bad, kung fu voice there. But apparently Jax is irritated about something.
Jackson.
Jax has, a 5-degree comfort zone.
Oh,
and then he's just irritable. But, so...
Talking about irritable.
Yeah.
I used my horn twice this week.
Oh, my God.
That's a big deal.
Is that
that's a year's
remember,
amount of honks for me.
I can't remember the last time I used my horn. Okay, so tell me more. What?
Someone ran a red light.
So, okay, and where were you? Behind them?
No, I was
in a different direction than them.
I was in the opposing direction, so I was turning right, and they were turning left into my lane.
Okay. So did you honk to tell them that they're an asshole, or did you honk to avoid calamity?
Oh, no, just tell them they were an asshole.
Oh, okay. You do understand your horn is there to warn people to avoid calamities, right?
Yeah, and that's why it never gets used, because that rarely happens.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. So fair enough. That person probably deserved to be honked at. What was the second instance?
Good question. I don't remember.
Really?
I just remember thinking.
I'm guessing I could count on one hand, the amount of times you've used your horn in the last 3 months, and you've used it twice in 1 week, and you can't remember the second one.
You could count on one hand the amount of times I've used my horn since I bought my car 3 years ago. It's that rare.
I don't even think I've used my horn.
Maybe that says I'm stressed or something.
Maybe. Are you stressed?
No.
Well, sit on my couch, Shannon. Tell me about stuff. What's going on here?
No, everything's good. Work is really good. I mean, it's busy, but it's all good stuff.
All right.
Wedding planning is going really well.
You want to...
we signed a caterer that makes the best bruschetta I've ever had in my life. I hope so.
I always thought it was bruschetta.
I don't know. Let's look.
Bruschetta. Well, then, I feel like a lot of Italian words have, a vowel at the end of the word. Like spaghetti and, pepperoni and, bruschetta. But then I feel like
it is bruschetta.
When the hardcore East Coast Italians pronounce it, I feel like they always
it is never pronounced bruschetta. Sorry.
Oh, so I was wrong.
The letter combination of CH is pronounced as a hard K, like Chianti.
Oh, that's good to know.
Or Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, not Pinocchio.
And SCH is simply S plus K. Sk.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so we signed a caterer, and she's amazing.
That's good. That's really good. You want to tell the people what you do for work?
What I do for work? Yeah.
Okay.
I develop others. I work.
Shannon has the job in the only good part of the HR department. If you're an employee that's not in the HR department.
We always say we're not HR. Don't worry, we're not HR. Yeah, so I work in talent development.
Don't worry, Deirdre, I love you.
Best way to put it,
in case you ever listen to this,
is there are two parts of training and development, or learning and development. I'm the development side. So the learning or training side teaches you how to do your job. I teach you how to further your career and how to develop soft skills so that you're better at your current job, but you're also setting yourself up for a developed career in the future.
So that's like disc profiles and like strengths finders and
yeah, it includes a lot of the personality profiles, but then you can get into, development goals, and it can include skill development, but it's not just how, like, let's teach you how to sit down and do this task for your job. It's more, okay, well, to do this task, you need this skill, but let's help you build that skill so that you're not only good at your current job, but you can use that in stretch assignments or in future roles. So it's more focusing on your skill development rather than focusing on process and tasks.
So you're like teaching people to fish instead of just giving them fish?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
And also,
oh, okay.
On the topic of leadership that you guys talk about a lot, that's a huge component, is we help people transition from being a manager and just focusing on processes and performance to becoming a leader and really helping build their team, helping play to strengths, be most productive, but also engaged, and then also focusing on growing their team, not just in terms of, let's hire more people, but growing their team members is a big focus.
It's an interesting dichotomy, management versus leadership.
We could do a whole series.
I think we should. One of my favorite managers and favorite people, good buddy of mine, Nick, he was the first one I've ever heard say this. So I'll go ahead and give him credit for it, even though I'm sure he didn't come up with this phrase. But he always used to tell me that things are managed, people are led. Mm-hmm. And those things could be, things pertaining to people like expense reports and like administration bullshit and all that stuff. But ultimately, people need to be led. And I think that goes directly into our beautiful topic today of part 3 of Sun Tzu's Art of War. But that just made me think of something. And since I think you're more than qualified to discuss this, not everyone has a quote unquote leadership role in their job or in life or whatever. Yeah. And we talk about leadership, and a lot of this is leading. And I think we've drawn the correlation to, leading an army could be as simple as yourself. You're the leader and the army, but can you kind of draw a little bit into or from how kind of anyone can be a leader? I don't know where I'm going. I know where I'm going with this. I don't know if I'm getting there.
Yeah. So honestly, we talk about that at work. We have a lot of individuals, especially being a medical device company. So we have a lot of individuals who are what we call individual contributors. They don't have people that directly report to them, but we remind them that at any role, regardless of your title or regardless of how long you've been there, you can lead from any seat. It also depends on how you define leading. So if you think of influencing as leading, you can do that from any seat. And we really push that at our organization because, for example, if you are speaking your mind, if you're using your voice and you're influencing decisions on process and direction, if you think about it, if you're in R&D as an individual contributor, you may be the reason that we have a new product on the market that's going to 100,000 plus patients this year or in 5 years. So, concentrating on feeling like you own not only your own tasks, but also that you can have an effect on the direction of your department, on the direction of the company, and that you're being heard. I think that's really where leadership comes in, having that confidence and feeling like you are able to express your voice and not just, being given a to-do list from some manager or director somewhere and going and doing it and then come back when you need more work. So I think that's the differentiation between the two.
Right. And I think in any job or any task or anything really, if there is a group of people and there is an actual leader, I think it's the leader or the corporation or the company's not duty, but I think that if they want to do things, I think the best way, it's my personal belief that you give everyone ownership in the project or the task or the vision of the company or whatever that may be. And
yeah,
then,
definitely.
You turn someone from basically, it's a whole different, like a job versus a career, but it's even more than that. Then they're part of something rather than just, punching a time card.
Definitely. Yeah, they'll feel that buy-in. Then honestly, say they do become a manager, then they already have that leadership quality to them, and you're not, like turnover kind of.
Yeah.
You know, when you have people get up to speed, that's what I was thinking. You know, when you hire a new person, they take a lot of time to get up to speed. So
Right.
and that's only affecting yourself, or think about it, if you're a salesperson, it's affecting your own numbers, or if you're in an office, it's affecting your own tasks. But if you're a new manager, you're not only affecting your own job, but everything that you do or don't do, or do well or don't do well, is having some type of impact on people. So
Absolutely.
it's cool to get that training in ahead of time.
Well, and I think even if you don't have the goal of becoming a manager, or maybe doing anything more than you're doing now, I still think it's important to, you know, to take some sort of leadership. And I mean, that could go for life too. I mean, you know, take some sort of a leadership role in anything you're doing, whether you're the actual leader or not. And I think that's our little segue into this. So hopefully you listened to the last 2 episodes, but you know, we got through about half of the book so far. And like I said, again, this is Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It's a 2,500-year-old book, and was written by a military strategist. And what was it? What was the word? Stratagem? Stratagem. Yes, that was the word that we couldn't figure out how to pronounce. Well, apparently we were kind of right. So yeah, it's pronounced stratagem. So we're just going to jump in here. If you don't have the book, then this won't matter to you. But if you do, we're on section 8, variation in tactics.
It can be like the Cliff Notes version.
That's pretty much exactly what this is. It's like audio Cliff Notes. So, so yeah, variation in tactics. Let me just flip through here real quick. My printed version of the book. So variation in tactics. Sun Tzu said. Every section starts with a Sun Tzu said, which is interesting because
he's writing it.
He wrote this, so he said like
you should start out your
Sun
podcast
Tzu
like
says.
that. Well, Tim Frick said.
Yeah, Tim Frick says. Blah 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 blah. So in war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign, collects his army, and concentrates his forces. It's very general. I have nothing to say about this. But every section begins with something similar to that. So the first thing that I highlighted here are there are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must be besieged. Armies which must be not attacked. Well, that's counterintuitive.
Both of them. There are roads which must not be followed.
There are roads which must not be followed. Armies which must be not attacked. I mean, you have to understand, too, this is a text that was written in Mandarin or Cantonese.
I was going to say it was
something.
translated.
Yeah. Towns which must be besieged. Positions which must not be contested. Commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. The one that I focus the most on, and he brings this up multiple times, is this commands which must not be obeyed. And this one kind of hits me because, I mean, not that the rabble-rouser or the constant protester is necessarily a good thing or what you want to be, but, I mean, I think you should question, like, if you're in a situation where someone's telling you what to do, either directly or indirectly, I mean, I think you should always question that. And obviously, you know that JB and I like to venture down conspiracy theory alley all the time, but just in general, I mean, I think you should question everything. And I mean, you know, I'm a mid-level manager, sort of kind of leader-ish guy, but I mean, I expect my people to question everything that I tell them. Like, I wouldn't want anyone to blindly follow me because I'm human, so I'm flawed. You know, I'm not always perfect, and if I'm giving them a directive, you know, that's not necessarily, like, it's something that I want them to be on board with. I don't want people to just blindly follow me. Like, and I think that, you know, we should always, you know, now there's obviously good ways and bad ways to go against a command, I think, but
Yeah.
but in the end, I think that questioning leads to understanding, and understanding something that you're doing, it just gives you more purpose in doing whatever you're doing.
Well, and I wonder here, I didn't highlight this one, but I wonder in that statement, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed, I wonder if he's talking about the commands of the general, like from the perspective of the military, or the general in terms of commands from like the supreme ruler.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Because whenever he uses, from what I understand, it's my belief that whenever he uses the term sovereign in this text, he's talking about the country, which ultimately would be the leader.
True. Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, that's how That's how we were formed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first point was actually close to the end, but the first point that stood out to me was part 10. Reduce the hostile chiefs by inflicting damage on them and make trouble for them and keep them constantly engaged. Hold out specious allurements and make them rush to any given point.
Way to go, SAT word. What does specious mean? I mean, I already know, of course, but some of the listeners might not know or something.
I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at a definition. Superficially plausible, but actually wrong.
So kind of like the
word
irregardless.
But it's not. Well, I guess the word kind of, but...
No, not the meaning of the word. I mean, using the word.
The word itself, yeah. So this reminded me, and I think I talked about it in part 1, about the infinite versus finite. So it's interesting how he talks about this. Like, your goal is to just tire this hostile chief out. You inflict damage on them.
Okay.
You make trouble for them, but keep them constantly engaged. So you're literally just tiring them out. So it's not always just about that one battle, but if you can go longer than your opponent, it made me think of...
like the Cold War?
I guess, yeah. But it made me think of this video I was watching on Facebook the other day, and it was so cute. It was kids meeting an opera singer.
Okay.
And the opera singer was in full costume. She had the wig, the jewelry, the dress. She looked like a princess. And her voice was obviously amazing. She was a professional. And it was cute. This one girl, they were all interested in what she did. And they were like, wow, your voice is so amazing. This one girl, she was about 8 or 9, was actually into opera and was just enamored by this lady and her voice. It was so cute. And so she asked her, she's like, so how did you get to become professional? And she said, you know what? I don't know. But she said, I kept going. I kept going back to school. I kept going to auditions. I kept going to voice lessons, and I just kept going. And she said, I'm not going to lie. I am very lucky because some people keep going and going and going and never make it. But it's that concept. Like, sometimes you just have to keep going. Like, even if you're making the tiniest bit of difference, just keep going. And that's what this comment reminded me of, in terms of just keep them constantly engaged and tire them out. And ultimately, in the end, if you keep going and you can outlast them, then you win. Absolutely.
The next one is number 11. The next one that I have highlighted is the art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him. Not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. And I like this because it's all about, it's about ownership, and it's about accountability, and it's about that whether it's attacking an enemy or getting a promotion or getting a new job or starting any whatever it is that you want to do, it's about taking it into your own hands and not wondering or worrying or waiting for something to come to you, but more being ready for anything, and B, I think, putting the accountability back on yourself. Like, you don't rely on the enemy's not coming or them attacking or them not attacking. You rely on your readiness and being ready for whatever the situation calls for.
It's not exactly tied to it, but it just, for some reason, the saying, plan for the worst, but expect the best, or hope for the best.
Hope for the best, expect the worst. Yeah.
Plan for the worst. Yeah. It just reminds me of that, because you want to prepare to be attacked, even if it's not going to happen. You want to be prepared for them to come, even if it's not going to happen.
Right. The next one I have, number 12. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. Cowardice, which leads to capture. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. Over-solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. And, I mean, this could, I think, even be... This could even, this could go for yourself, too. Not just a general of an army, but to yourself, I think recklessness obviously can lead to destruction. It's the guy, the hothead guy who just, or girl, whatever, who goes out and, in a blaze of glory, and you're going to, do something stupid because you're a hothead. And, cowardice is just someone who's always obviously I was worried about failing or worried about something, and yeah, you should have those on your mind. But someone who goes in spending more time kind of protecting themselves from whatever failure they're afraid of, rather than actually doing what they're going to do, you're going to get captured. Obviously, we're not dealing in necessarily like a military term.
You will be taken.
And then I think 3 and 4 are similar. A hasty temper, which can be revoked. How often do we talk about, not letting your emotions rule the day? Mm-hmm. And if you have a hasty temper, that can lead to obviously making emotional based decisions, which can end up being bad. And then the whole delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame, kind of a similar thing. It's a pride thing, an ego thing, and I think that it just leads you to making less than great decisions because they're based on emotions or a delicacy of honor. I like that phrase. It's like a nicer way of saying douchebaggery. And then this is interesting. Over solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. And I think that's. I don't know that I agree or disagree with that, but this would be in any sort of actual leadership or some sort of situation similar, where it's basically saying you care too much about the people that you're leading to make the right decision. So that can definitely be true. But I don't think that caring about your people is necessarily a bad thing, but just that if you put worrying about them in certain instance, like if we are talking about a military institution of these things, then if you care so much about your men's safety or whatever, that you make decisions that aren't beneficial to the actual outcome of the war, then I can understand that could be a problem. Mm-hmm. Or if you're talking about a company, obviously a lot of companies frown on employee fraternization or dating or whatever, and I could understand that too, because then your focus is not necessarily on the job but more on the relationship. Or if you care more about a certain group or a certain person than the whole, then obviously you're gonna show favor to that group or that person in some way, shape, or form, and that could be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always struggle with this, but I think the last one just kind of reminds me of, like a business. When you have to make a business decision, you can't necessarily think, oh, well, we can't negatively affect anyone. There are business decisions that, people may get laid off or their jobs may change.
Right.
So it reminds me of that, thinking of the bigger picture over the parts themselves.
Right, absolutely.
Which I have a hard time with.
It sucks, but on some level, you have to make a business decision that's going to affect the business. And there's definitely instances where it's cold-hearted and they don't care. But at some point in time, I think some of these decisions end up keeping the business afloat, where you make enough bad decisions and every single person, like maybe you have to lay off a division or a group of people and it sucks. But, and now sometimes they lay people off for stupid reasons. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's a lot of companies who do not understand the meaning of the word humanity, or that the people that work for you are humans. By the way, we'll find out in a minute that Sun Tzu actually did understand that he was working with humans. But I think on some level you have to do things that hurt certain people to keep things afloat, because otherwise you could put the whole company in jeopardy. And then, it sucks to lay off 50 people, but if the company goes down, then you have 500 or 5,000 people out of work, and that's a worse situation. And I'm not justifying everything that every company does by any means, but there are definitely times when I think you do have to make decisions that may not positively affect certain people or a group of people to basically, it's the whole greater good argument, and it does apply sometimes, but not always.
Yeah.
That is all I have for this section. Do you have anything else?
I just want to read the last one.
Sure.
When an army is overthrown and its leader slain, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation.
That's like...
That was really wow.
Yeah,
oh, God.
Yeah.
I was kind of laughing. I was like, oh, goodness.
Yeah. If your leader has been slain, then it's probably because...
It's one of those.
It's probably because he was a douchebag. He was either
That's
reckless...
not what he wrote.
Yeah. Well, it's all in translation, Shannon. I don't know how you say douchebag in Mandarin or whatever language Sun Tzu spoke. So section 9 is the army on the march. Sun Tzu said, "We come now to the question of encamping the army and observing signs of the enemy. Pass quickly over mountains and keep in the neighborhood of valleys." Do you have a neighborhood of valleys?
I don't know.
I don't even know what a neighborhood of valleys is. No, I mean I get it.
I neighbor Mission Valley.
Yeah, right. So this has, you know what? I didn't highlight a whole lot of stuff on this first page because it's got a lot of very literal things about rivers and mountains and stuff, and how if you cross a river, you need to get away from the river as quickly as possible. If you have to attack somebody in the river, I'm sure if we dig into this, there's probably some metaphorical meaning to some of this, but I didn't really go. The only one that I did highlight was all armies prefer high ground to low ground and sunny places to dark. And I mean, I think the high ground is always better.
Well, it goes back to preparation.
Yeah.
He talks about how you have to know your surroundings and know what you're going into, and you can't do that if you're in a dark valley.
I did highlight a bunch of stuff between 18 and 33 though, and I'm just going to kind of read through them because
take it away.
I have thoughts on kind of the whole group of sayings. So when the enemy is,
are you reading 18 through 33?
No, not necessarily. No, I have like maybe half of them.
Okay.
When the enemy is close at hand and remains quiet, he is relying on the natural strength of his position. When he keeps aloof and tries to provoke a battle, he is anxious for the other side to advance. If his place of encampment is of easy access, he is tendering a bait, i.e., if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Startled beasts indicate that a sudden attack is coming. Peace proposals unaccompanied by a sworn covenant indicate a plot. So watch out for liars, because they do exist. When there is much running about and the soldiers fall into rank, it means that the critical moment has come, i.e. shit's about to hit the fan. When some are seen advancing and some retreating, it is a lure. When the soldiers stand leaning on their spears, they are faint from want of food. If those who are sent to draw on water begin by drinking themselves, the army is suffering from thirst. If the enemy sees an advantage to be gained and makes no effort to secure it, the soldiers are exhausted. If birds gather on any spot, it is unoccupied. If there is disturbance in the camp, the general's authority is weak. If the officers are angry, it means that the men are weary. When an army feeds its horses with grain and kills its cattle for food, and when the men do not hang their cooking pots over the campfires, showing that they will not return to their tents, you may know that they are determined to fight to the death. The sight of men whispering together in small knots or speaking in subdued tones points to dissatisfaction among the rank and file. And I think all of these just kind of point to, the whole first part of this book talks about, being prepared and having a strategy and finding, the best point and plan of attack to give yourself the most benefit. And also, studying and researching and seeing where your strengths play into it and how you can use what you have to the best of your ability for the task at hand, depending on, who the army is that you're up against or what the task that you're up against is. Also taking into consideration the lay of the land, the weather, and all that stuff. This is the first time that he really talks about, except for maybe kind of the part where he says pay attention to moods earlier, in when he's talking about attacking an army in the morning versus at night and when they're going to be tired and all that. But all of this is basically talking about paying attention to your adversary or your enemy or whatever that means in whatever terms we're thinking of. But just to kind of paying attention, because you can be prepared and have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't pay attention and pay attention to exactly what your adversary or enemy is doing, then you're not going to know what's going on. So, these are all, some of them are very literal and some are very not literal, but signs of what your enemy is doing. If they're offering you some great proposal or something, too good to be true, and they're like, oh, look, attack us. It's not a trap, I promise. Like, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And then all these are just basically signs to be observant, pay attention to what the other person's doing, and you can kind of adapt accordingly. You have any thoughts on this, Shannon?
What I liked, I think it's right after, what was the last one that you read? 33?
37.
Oh, 37. Perfect. So part 40, it says, if our troops are no more in number than the enemy, that is amply sufficient. It only means that no direct attack can be made. What we can do is simply to concentrate all our available strength, keep a close watch on the enemy, and obtain reinforcements. I love that it's okay to ask for help. He's like, if it's you against them and you are outnumbered or you are equally numbered, it's okay to observe and go ask for help, which is so important in all aspects of life.
Absolutely agree.
To always ask for help. Whether it's trying to get through something yourself or whether you are trying to combat something or reach a goal. We're not meant to live this life by ourselves. So I like that he actually put that in there. It was a little surprising for me. Because he didn't really have that in any of the previous sections.
He does talk about allies and stuff like that, and forming alliances. So I have the next one highlighted, and this is kind of a no-brainer. He who exercises no forethought but makes light of his opponents is sure to be captured by them. I mean, again, that goes right back to, I would say that goes right back to the whole reckless general that is just going to get destroyed, or just kind of running in there without thinking, kind of like we do on this podcast. The next one I have, I like this one. If soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive. And unless submissive, then will be practically useless. If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. I think this is important. So if you do have, your commanding troops, or you're managing a team of people, or you have a group of whoever that you're trying to do something with, if you come in there all tyrannical and dictatorial and start laying down punishment before you've earned any, and they say submissive, I'm going to go ahead and say more respect than submissive, because obviously soldiers 2,500 years ago, I think it was a little bit of a different story, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with respect. So, if you haven't earned the respect of your people and you go in there and are, very, very harsh and aggressive, like, it's not going to work, because they're just going to feel like you're beating them up. You have to go in there and earn the respect. And I think once people respect you, then they will follow you into battle, or, whether that's literal or metaphorical battle.
Yeah.
And then this other part, I think, is it's all about, it's all about consistency. And I don't know, I don't have any kids, but I think this works with kids. It works with employees. It works with a team, whatever it is. I think consistency is key. And, once you've earned the respect of your team and they will listen to you, if you aren't consistent and you give them too many allowances, like if you say that this has to be done by this date, and then you're like, oh, well, it's okay if you don't. You have to be consistent with that. And
especially consistent with different people.
Right. Well, and I think it's also important. Back to we were talking about, favoritism and stuff a minute ago with whole, people dating or whatever. But I think consistency is important throughout the ranks and throughout the different people, that if you say something is going to happen, then that should happen the same way to everybody, no matter what. If so-and-so is my favorite person, but like they don't turn something in on time or they miss their number, they need to be treated with the exact same treatment as the person who I don't like so much, who doesn't hit their number, and vice versa. Consistency is key. And I think people, they may not love it when they're getting punished for something, but if it's consistent and that's what they signed up for, and it's the exact same thing that happens to every other person, then, it is what it is. And I think people, like I said, they may not like it at the time, but I think they respect that. I like this one. Therefore, soldiers must be treated in the first instance with humanity. And this is what I was talking about earlier, but kept under control by means of iron discipline. This is a certain road to victory. And I love this because, I've said so many times that so many companies and organizations just don't get it. Like when they talk about different people and how to keep employees and keep people happy, I think it simply comes down to, and it's not just this, but I think the first step of everything is just treating people like humans, because you're dealing with humans. What was that?
Sorry. It's my computer talking to me.
What did it say?
Route.
Oh, route. So I think it's extremely important, especially if you do have a leadership role or you do have, some sort of authoritative power over people, to understand that you're working with humans, and humans are humans. They're all a little bit different.
Yeah, we are.
And, you have to treat them like humans. but also by, iron means of discipline. And then again, this goes back to consistency. I think that discipline is important.
That is about parenting, 100%.
That is totally about parenting.
That'd be funny if that's like what he wrote the whole book about.
It's really about parenting. Yeah, probably.
It's a battle. I mean, I wouldn't know yet, but I've seen it.
Well, I mean, it could work for dogs. You have to have iron discipline, otherwise they're just going to run roughshod all over all of your rules. I mean, they already have no sense of personal space or anything.
Yeah.
And they'll push a limit just like a kid. Not pretending like I know anything about kids, because I don't, but it's cool. Maybe someday. Did you have anything else in this section?
Mm-mm.
All right. So the next section is terrain, and this again kind of similar to part of the last one. It's pretty. There is a lot of stuff about terrain, but I'll just go ahead and read the intro, since I read the intro in the last few. Sun Tzu said, "We may distinguish 6 kinds of terrain, to wit: accessible ground, entangling ground, temporizing ground, narrow passes, precipitous heights, positions at a great distance from the enemy." And these are all very literal. And again, we could probably dive into this and find some sort of metaphorical meaning, but we're not going to, because there's so much more book to read. The one that I did like, and only because, well, you'll find out in a second. Number 8 was, with regard to narrow passes, if you can occupy them first, let them be strongly garrisoned and await the advent of the enemy. This just totally reminded me of the Battle of Thermopylae, which the movie 300 is based on.
This is Sparta!
And I thought it was cool because, that was one instance of a strategy where they picked a pass where, so basically it was 300 soldiers, 300 Spartans against like 1 million Persians.
Yeah.
So they were outnumbered, like horribly, horribly outnumbered. But they were able to have the battle. They were able to make them come to do the battle at a place which was a narrow pass. So essentially you could only have like 10 people wide going to this pass. So sure, you have like 1 million people, but they can only come in, 10 at a time basically, and then in rows. So that was what allowed the 300 to be able to fight that large number without just getting completely destroyed in like 2 seconds.
A narrow pass.
So I'm sure there's a metaphorical meaning to that, but
yeah,
I don't know exactly what it is. So I'm going to leave that up to your imaginations.
I like this one. When the common soldiers are too strong and their officers too weak, the result is insubordination. When the officers are too strong and the common soldiers too weak, the result is collapse. So, talk about leading from any seat. You need strong members that are not just the actual leader themselves, but strong team members to make an actual team that's going to work.
Yeah.
But as a leader, you do need that strength as well. You can't just surround yourself with strong individuals or strong common soldiers, as he says. But it has to be almost equally distributed.
Absolutely. And I like this because it's both ways. Either one's not going to work. I was trying to think of like a good analogy, but it was like, if the inside, basically if the top part is too strong, it's just going to crush everything inside or everything below it. And then if everything below is too, if it's too strong and the top part or the general or the leader is too weak, then especially if you have some sort of I was listening to the Jocko podcast, and he's talking about, you battle. And, you have some of these guys who are just complete badasses, but they're total alpha males. And if they don't have someone leading them that is strong enough or commands enough respect, then you have basically someone who could be kind of a loose cannon if they don't have someone that they respect leading them. And, it could be a lot of different situations. But yeah, I think that you need that strength at the top and at all angles. Because otherwise you're going to crush the little guy, or the little guy is going to crush the big guy. If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight, even though the ruler forbid it. If fighting will not result in victory, then you must not fight, even at the ruler's bidding.
Oh.
And this goes right back to my whole not listening to your orders, because sometimes they don't make sense. And if there is an opportunity that you are going to be victorious in, and you don't take it, then obviously you're going to miss out on whatever that opportunity was. And then if you get And if you get commanded to do something or an opportunity where it's a losing battle, sometimes you got to buck authority, because there's no good leader who's going to send you to your own death, like either literally or metaphorically, that, deserve, at least question that before you do it. But yeah, so I like those. You had the next one?
Mm-hmm. The general who advances without coveting fame,
I like this one a lot,
and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. I love that, because it's like anything you do in life, if you go in with good intentions and knowing your values and knowing what you want out of it, you can do anything. I mean, it might take a hell of a long time, or you might take a different path than you thought you would take. But I love that to me, I mean, if you go through life like that you're not coveting fame, you're not fearing disgrace, your only thought is to serve your values and serve your country, whether I'll put country in air quotes. Country can be yourself, your family. If you're talking about work, it could be your job. But, if you have those core values and that foundation in mind, whatever actions you do, as long as they're driven by that, are going to lead you into a direction that you're going to be happy with.
Absolutely. And I mean, if it's a work situation or even not a work situation, I feel like a lot of people get wrapped up in the whole taking credit for things. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Give the credit away, because you shouldn't be doing it for the credit. You shouldn't be doing it for the accolades. You shouldn't be doing it if it's something worth doing, you should be doing it to do it and do it well. And it could be for you or for your family or your country or your job. But here's the thing. If you miss out on a few credit situations where, you didn't get credit for this, you didn't get credit for that, I feel like a lot of people get wrapped up in that, and they spend so much time worrying about that. But I promise you, if you're someone who goes in with good intentions and values the task at hand, and even if you give that credit away, people will notice you, and people will notice what you're doing, and you will end up in a better place, because people are going to see that. And the person, your immediate superior, who is demanding to take credit for everything, they may not see that, they may not appreciate you, but someone else will. People
know.
Yeah, people know, people can tell. And it's the jewel of the kingdom. Mm-hmm. I really like the next two as well. Number 25 is, regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look upon them as your own beloved sons. I'll add daughters to that. And they will stand by you even unto death. If, however, you are indulgent, but unable to make your authority felt, kind-hearted, but unable to enforce your commands, and incapable, moreover, of quelling disorder, then your soldiers must be likened to spoiled children. They are useless for any practical purposes. So I really like this, because I don't know. If you have any people that report to you, it's not always, you don't always have to think of them all as your children, but I mean, there's something to that. And especially I can imagine, guys going over to go into actual battle. Those are your kids, because, you're sending them off to, I was looking at my calendar, and I have a team of 5 people that work for me, and I think one of them is younger than me. The rest are older than me, but I was looking at my calendar, and this week a bunch of them were at training in Boston, and on my calendar I had written out the kids are at training or something like that, because that's how I see it. I mean, it's
defying the laws of science.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, it's, I don't know. I see it as my duty to motivate them, mm-hmm. and give them tools and develop them and make them better and make them, excel and make them successful. Yeah. But then also to protect them from as much of the BS and remove as much of the obstacles from their way as I possibly can.
Well, and that's why you call them kids, because that's exactly what.
Yeah. So I really like this, but then I also like if you're indulgent. So if you just let your kids get away with, mm-hmm. if you like them so much, but you don't, that you don't instill. I mean, it's just like real kids, really, mm-hmm. or dogs or anything. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the whole. If you have to have they have to have discipline. I mean, I think we all need discipline. We have to discipline ourselves. We have to discipline, people if we're in a situation to lead people. And no, I just really like that one. So that takes us up through 10, section 10. So we will stop this here, and we will leave the last part of the book for our 4th installment of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Shannon, do you have any closing remarks?
No.
No final words? No PSAs?
No.
All right. Well, have a good one. Enjoy yourselves. Be good to one another. Or just be good, as my friend JB would say. So, JB,
JB.
this goes out to you. Hope all's well with the family. We're excited. Congratulations. All
Congrats.
of you. Have a good one. Be good to
Bye-bye.
yourself. Be good to each other. Bye.
So what I believe you were trying to say is thank you.